Yeah. So till yesterday, we went through this macro variables and the description of macros and macro variables. So today we'll just go through this macro statements. The precisely called precisely comprised of both macro names and macro variables. Okay. How are they? How do they get created and how to use them? What is the syntax of these macros and macro variables? Okay, all these. Yeah. So macro statements. So in first one is percentage macro. So when a name begins with a percentage, so it's called a macro. So normally to create a macro, the syntax is uh, percentage, so, yeah, percentage macro. And here to create a macro name, so just give your preferred macro name. Uh, Macro name, parenthesis open, and here you need to provide the parameters. So parameters in the sense, so for a given code, for example, take this proc import as a given code. So for that, at which points you have to change such that at which point of code you have to change again and again, such that every time you get a new file. Okay. So if for example in proc import, what are the points at which you want to change again and again, ma'am? So which is data file, sorry, data file and out, right? So at these 2 points, you have to change it again and again. Okay. For example, uh, for some files, even this DBMS is also not same. Okay. Uh, for example, some files may be CSV in that way. Okay. At that time, even you can create a parameter for DBMS also. Okay. Yeah. So those all come under parameters. Yeah. So those all come under parameters. So uh, parameters can be written in different types. The first type is this one. Uh, Parameter two and so on. Parameter and okay. And now, so after this, the actual code flows. The SAS code, which we normally use for this. So we can write the SAS code here. And after that, whenever you create a macro, it should end with the men statement, percentage men. Okay, percentage men, and here you can give the macro name. Okay, the macro name is something there. The name which you have created after the percentage macro is called macro name, right? So you can either give out a macro name, or else you can just leave that as a blank. A space. It's not mandatory. Okay, and so once you run this particular piece of code, this particular macro name has been this particular macro has been created with a name called macro name, and you want to call this particular macro name. So you have to again to start with percentage macro space name. Okay, and in brackets. So you use different parameters, right? So all those so these parameters are being replaced at different points in the code. So what should, for example, for the proc import we have used this parameter set data file out equal data set, right? So we have to mention for these parameters what are the what are the actual values to be replaced. So here, okay, so after this macro name, we have to pass this file for example, for take it for the proc import. So we have to pass the file location slash file name dot exe extension, comma, the output dataset name, output dataset name. Yeah. So this is what we do, whenever we create a macro, right, ma'am? Yeah. So, while specifying the men statement, personal men statement, the the macro name which we provide after personal men statement should match with the okay. So it should match with the name which we given after the personal macro statement. Okay. So normally, macro name is so as it told you before, macro name is of your choice, okay, of your choice, but it must follow the normal SAS naming convention rules, naming conventions, such that it should start with underscore. It should underscore only contains only letters and letters, numbers, and underscores, and it should not exceed 32 characters of length. 32 characters of length. Okay. Yeah. So, in order to avoid errors, okay, in order to avoid errors, so first of all, we need to go with a modular approach. Modular approach is nothing but first thing is you have to write the SAS code. Okay. Let me just copy this particular piece of code. Yeah. So first thing is in terms of modular approach, first thing is you have to write the SAS code. Okay. First write the SAS code. And then after that, you give the file name, out ds name. After that, on top of this one, once you run this code, if it works, okay, works on top of it, always then create a macro, personal macro, file import, okay, parameters, para one, comma, para two. So for example, I have given file name, comma, out out ds, okay, and now the same thing. I'm calling that with percentage mend. Before mention the name here, personal mend file import, you can mention, or else you can just leave personal mend as is. Okay, percentage file import. Again, file import, just mention the file name slash file .txt. Sorry, just a moment, ma'am. extension, comma, the output data set name. Okay. So this is the typical modular approach. Okay. And now, so you have to change the parameters here. Okay. So you are using two parameters to replace. One is to replace the file name, other one is to replace the output data set name. Okay. So these parameters, when they are, when they're used in the, when they're used in a as a form of a form of a parameter in a specific code, so they are called, they are created as a macro variables. Okay, macro variables. So they are created in this form: percentage, sorry, ampersand, file name. Okay, and here ampersand dot. So which this becomes clock import data file equal to file name or ds reviews excel replace get name cs run main file import. So in this way, you can just you can just call the file import as many times as possible by changing the file name and the output dataset name. So this is what a typical creation of macro, both macros and macro variables. So this whenever you see something, whenever you create a macro variable, it should start with ampersand and the and the respective name dot. Okay. Any questions in this part?
So Rajiv,
Yes, ma'am.
we have to first create the macro variables, right? Ampersand, whatever variable we are writing.
Yeah,
Did we
ma'am.
create these variables in the previous steps, file name and out
So I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't get you. Can you come again?
ds and file name?
Uh-huh.
Those are the two macros that we have to create before we invoke them, right?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, create in the sense we have to just name them in the parameters list. Okay. So the same parameters list should be in the places where you want to invoke this macro variable. Okay. But it should have ampersand dot, such that the
Okay.
SAS converts that parameter name to a macro variable name.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are creating the variables by giving the names in the parameter when we are creating the macro.
Right, ma'am. Yeah.
So, like, how is this going to be? I mean, how is this going to reflect? Uh, I mean, different file extensions and file names. Where do we give that?
Yeah. So for example, I told you, right? For example, you have to import around 10 to 10 files. So each
Mhm.
file, each time you just call it here. Okay. You just call this file file import, and again file import. Okay. So you mentioned this location and the output dataset name. So these things will be replaced with personal macro file name dot.
Where do we mention this? The extensions and all, the file names,
Um,
location.
No, no, while calling this macro variable name, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. So normally, the proc import syntax is data file equal to file name slash file location slash file name dot extension. So that's the normal proc import syntax. Out equal to output data set. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. From so data file equal to from file name, which means that from where you are, from where we are, extracting the file, from which location. Out equal no, out equal to ds, data set name, which is, so this file name gets, convert this Excel or CSV file gets, converted to output data set. Okay. So in the form of data set, so which will be stored, which will be stored in the SAS server, and in the form of data set. So that's the syntax of proc import. So what we're doing is we're just no we just naming these two as the two parameters, such that while calling this macro, we mention these two, and these two, will be replaced with the locations, file name and location, comma data set name.
So where will this bottom part go, Rajiv? Will it be included in the program, or how is it? I'm unable to understand. Because in
What?
the beginning, we're creating a macro with file underscore import name, right? That is the name of the macro.
Yeah. For example, no, ma'am, this is the other import. Okay, no, let me just change this file. Just change the import name here. No, you can change the file import based on your, the macro name based on your creation, ma'am. Well,
Okay.
this is just an example. File name, macro name can be of your choice,
Okay.
but it should follow the specific SAS, naming conventions. Got it, ma'am? Any questions? Any questions, ma'am?
Not clear to me.
Sorry.
It's not clear to me.
So, at which part, ma'am? It's not clear for you.
How is this going to resolve? I mean, when we are giving this file name, ampersand file name dot and ampersand
Okay.
out
No.
this
Let me just show
dot,
you
how
the
is it?
actual part. Okay. So, yeah. What I'll do is I'll do in this way. Yeah. Yeah. So here I just gave this. One second. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Here I just gave this file name dot extension, comma OTS. Okay. So now see, ma'am. So we are calling this file import here, right? Okay. So this file import. So for example, once I run this one. So, compile, compile, semicolon. Okay. Okay. We see this one. File import. Okay. This got run. No, without any errors. And now you're calling this particular personal file import. Okay. So here, we have created a macro. Okay, macro name called file import, and I'm calling it with specific parameters. Right, ma'am? So what are the parameters I use? I use file name and outds. So so I need to replace this file name parameter with the actual location, right? So what is the actual syntax of this, data file equal to file name, which is the file location slash file dot extension. Okay, and here out equal to the output dataset name. So that's the actual syntax. So I'm just replacing this file name or ds parameters with my desired file location and output dataset name. And now if I run this by calling personal file import the parameters list. Ah. Did I miss something? Sorry. Yeah, I got the file here. If you see the log, okay, the import dataset has 19 observations and 5 variables. The output dataset has been created, right, ma'am?
Yes. And so for all the other files that we want to work on, we have to again do the same process. Like in the brackets, we have to
Yeah,
change the path.
exactly, exactly. So how many files you want to import? Just change, for example, if I just importing this one, this particular piece of file, okay. So here, why did I mention in quotations? And here, I haven't mentioned this one in quotations, okay. So actually, we'll just go to syntax. Where is syntax? Yeah. If you see this proc import, okay, let me just open this proc import for you. Export, yeah, proc import. You see this one? Syntax here is proc import data file equal to raw data location in quotations. Okay, because we are using different types of characters which have which consists of special characters, backslash, dot, and all, right? Okay, so the syntax itself have data file equal to raw in quotations. Okay, so that's the reason we have mentioned that in quotations. Yeah, same thing, man. If you just want to create another file, okay, create this particular. So you change this particular data set, I mean the file name extension and your desired output data set. For example, I just want one. Okay, run this all together. Okay, so we got DS and DS1 in this way. If you see the log, so I got two files being created, right, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah. So this was typically, creating a macro variables and creating macro name. Any questions, ma'am? No, no,
No.
take it to any code, your desired code. Replace your values which you think these particular these particular syntaxes. I have to change it again and again and again. Okay. So at that moment you can just directly use this for I mean macros, right, ma'am? Yeah. Any questions, ma'am? Priyanka, ma'am? Uh, any questions on this?
No, Raju.
Okay. So you're fine with this, right?
Yes, right.
Okay, let's try this one. See this here, ma'am. Uh, yeah. So this will be in form of quotations, so which is not acceptable here. Okay, you can directly have the quotations over here. So whenever you feel that no that there is a need of quotations in in this particular data, and if you place single quotes, this macro variable doesn't work. Okay, at that time you have to use, you have to use double quotes. Okay.
Okay, so we have to put the variable or the path or either one.
I didn't get it. Come again, ma'am. You have to put what?
We have to put the variable in double quotes, the macro variable.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, this one. The macro variable, which you're creating at that time. So, the syntax insists that it should have double quotes. So, I mean, the syntax insists that it should have single quotes. So, you have to use double quotes at that time instead of single quotes.
If we are quoting the variable, we don't need to quote the path.
Sorry, ma'am.
If we are quoting the variable
Uh-huh.
that is going to resolve to the path, we don't need to quote the path again, right?
I
Just
get it, ma'am.
the file,
Uh-huh.
the file path, file name and extension.
Uh-huh. This
Do
one.
we have to, yeah, do we have to quote this again?
No, ma'am, not required. That's what I just showed you, right? So this will give you error. Okay.
Okay.
So then while calling itself, while calling the macro variable itself, you have to code the macro variable. Yeah. 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 So this is typically called, invoking, calling a macro name. So when you call a macro name, you have to use percentage symbol. Okay. You're creating a macro name with the help of percentage macro, and when you want to call the same macro name, we have to use percentage macro name. Right, ma'am? Yeah. Yeah. So if we see this one, here we have used percentage macro, mac1, data ds, sasl dot class run. So proc print will ds run. So here I'm not using, any kind of, parameters. So I'm just directly using this particular piece of code, a base of, normal SAS piece of code. And on that, I'm just using this percentage macro name and then percentage macro end mid. Run this one. This normally runs. And if I once I no and I want to invoke this one. So we use percentage macro mac1. That's it. No need of uh, parameters. Because you haven't created any parameters. But if you create any parameters, then you have to open the brackets and distort all the parameters which you have used at the start. Where you have replaced the parameters with, and then you have to list out the actual parameter, actual parameters to which you want to replace those parameters. Okay, in the parentheses, you can do either way. Then you can call the data, or you can directly use the parameters over here. For example, if you want to use the parameter, then now right here, uh, class data dot. Okay, so I just want to use LSS class data. Here I'm using SAS help dot class. Right, ma'am? So once I run this, sorry, okay, this got printed. We got the output data set and this got printed. So in this way, we can change the. So for example, ma'am, if I use different no data sets instead of sasl.class, if I use sasl.car, sasl.heart, sasl dot some other data set name, okay, and I go on running this entire all these macros, all this and I go on invoking all these macro names, mac1. So here I use sasl.cars and again macro mac1, mac1, sas help dot heart. Okay. For example, I use these two and I am running these two. Okay. So what will be my final data set now?
Art. That's
Right.
right.
Right. Because we are replacing because we haven't changed this data DS.
Wow. Okay.
It is the same. Right.
Yes.
So first thing it runs, it'll have class data will be in DS. And second part cars will run, cars data will be in DS. And third part heart will run, heart will be in DS. So the DS will be replaced again and again and again, giving you the final hard data set. What's happening? Yeah, heart is little bigger now. Just a moment. Yeah. Yeah. So in DS we have one. This is the heart. This is the heart data set. But in results, it's not opening. Yeah. See in results we have different data sets. Right. We have cars, we have heart, we have seven class. This is because once this result can no results window can be we'll accumulate all the prints which are used in all these three. No, while invoking all these, I mean three macro names, right? Yeah.
So how do we change the name of the dataset that we have to do without a macro?
Sorry, ma'am, how do we change what?
The name of the dataset if we don't want it to be overwritten.
Yeah, same thing, ma'am. Just add a parameter here, uh, data set, just parameter of your choice, copy it. Okay. So where do you want to change the parameter? Where do where do you want to create a this data set parameter? All those locations will be changed. Okay. So here I use ds ds1 ds2. First we run this piece of code and see everything is fine. And now I'm going to run this all three Mac ones. Yeah, just a moment. It should come. Yeah, we have it, right? See, we have the DS, DS1, DS2. DS2, DS1. Clear, ma'am?
Yes.
So in this way, we can change n number of parameters. Okay. Yeah. So here, what it's doing is, so as I said, it's a, as I said, it's a meta programming. Okay. What does it do? So this particular program, it writes its own another program. Okay. The first program which we have given to it, whenever we invoke Mac1, okay, it writes another program with different parameters, right? So it writes
Hmm.
almost three programs with three different parameters. Yeah. Yeah. And whenever you wish to see the macro variable, what are the macro variables in the log, just use percentage put symbol. Yeah. Okay. Percentage put. So can be used to write text or macro variable information to SAS log. Okay. For example, um, yeah. Yeah. Mm, so let's put. Yeah. So this is used to call the information to log. Okay. So for example, so if you want to print all the macro variables in log, one second. Just personal put underscore global underscore. So we get all the global macro variables, and we use percentage put all. So you get all user defined and global macro variables. And if I use user defined user underscore user, you get what are the user defined macro variables, short name, short program, file host. Uh, let's see, for example. This one, yeah. You see in the log, so it has printed class as a broad class because we have mentioned put. For example, I have to use in this way percentage put class data equal to ampersand class data dot. Okay, class data equal to percentage SAS of dot class. So as you know, whatever we mentioned in the put statement, it just directly prints in the log, right? So here I mentioned class data equal to the class. So what is the name of the particular data set? Okay. So yeah, we are using that. No, SAS dot class. So that's the use of put statement. Yeah. So
So,
whenever, yes, ma'am.
so this percentage put underscore user underscore.
Uh-huh.
So it will print all the like variable
Was
which is created by user, right?
exactly, ma'am. Yeah.
So when we run that, but it didn't show, right? This whatever the macro variable we just created,
Let me see. I don't check.
did it show? Because I did not see it.
Okay. Let me see. Um, yeah. So this thing should be global, ma'am. I mean, just all. So whenever a user-defined macro variable, whenever we create a global macro variable, at that time it will show us it will show us all the user-defined macro variables, ma'am. Okay, so it will show us all the globally defined macro variables.
So whatever we are creating, it will not show.
No, because if you see this one, so if I invoke this particular macro personal put here out of this entire scenario, okay, we'll just see. Okay, see this one apparent symbolic difference class data not resolved, right? Because this being a local macro variable, because this being created within the macro statements at that time, so it can't be called apart from the macro statement. I mean, no, apart from the main statement. So it should be called only within the main statement. Okay.
No, I
So
didn't get. So we are creating the macro right
macro,
now. So
yeah, no,
it is
yes, ma'am.
inside.
No,
Okay.
yeah, no, we are creating this macro variable. Okay.
Yeah.
So this particular, so as I said previously, we have two types of macro variables, right? One is local and the other one is
Yeah.
global, right? So
Yes.
whenever we create a local macro, if we create a local macro variable, so how is it possible? So how is it been created? So a local variable is defined as whenever we create a macro variable within the macro and personal macro and personal main, okay,
Okay.
within the
Yeah.
within the macro statements. This treated as within the macro statements, so that's called local macro variable. And the only use of it is it can be used only while invoking only while invoking the same kind of a macro name. Okay, not the others. We can't use into the other statements. Okay, so if for example if I use mac2 and pass these variables, it won't run.
Okay.
Yeah, so because it
So
only
you
run.
mean to say, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
No, it's okay. So you mean to say if we are creating the local macro variable, it is not going to show in that, right?
Yeah, if you mention personal put yeah, above, away from the main statement, then then it won't show you. The same like
Okay.
personage underscore put underscore user.
Okay.
Okay. So for example, let's go into this user. Let's see. Yeah, if you see here, so all this mentioned are global. So it should be global. Okay. And you want to see, even if you mention personal put underscore user underscore and you want to see the global variables, then you have to create a global variable. So to create a global to create macro variables, we have different types. So first type is creating with the help of using personal let statement. So personal let statement. So this won't be created within the first is the macro and main statement. No, within the macro statements. So this we can directly create in an open code such that It's simple. The syntax is simple. Percentage let macro variable name for the macro variable name equal to our desired name. Simple, I just mentioned Raji. Okay. Now run this percentage. So I want to I want to just see what is there in the personal macro name. Now see here we got this. I got Rajiv here. So this got resolved to Rajiv, right? This is what a global macro variable. Run this one. Run this one. Percentage put underscore user underscore calculated. What's the name of it? Macro var and then
Yeah, it is there, Raju.
okay. Let's see.
Up it is.
Yeah, here we have it, right? Macro var and then global. Because we have created this in the in just an open code. So whenever we create something some macro variable in an open code, it's it automatically be defined as a global macro variable. Right, ma'am?
Yeah, Raju.
Yeah. The thing is, it is not giving the whenever we use this purpose input, underscore user underscore, it's not giving the macro variable information because local macro variables I know they are just stick to this particular data, to this particular mac1 macro name. Okay, so whenever you call it in the entire session, you just directly use these parameters. But so which doesn't require any special special attention to just call in the personage put option in the underscore user underscore just to know what it is what in the what's there in the macro variable. Okay, because we are creating this in a local form, so and we know what's there in it. Okay, but here but in terms of creating a global macro variable, this name equal to Rajiv. So I can use this macro var name in any statement. Okay. I mean, I can use this, I can use this, wherever I want. For example, I have created macro, yeah, created macro var name to be SAS help, so SAS help dot class. Okay. And now I am using this macro var name here. Yeah, I'm using macro var name here. I just remove this one. Okay, I just use only the data set. DS, right? What happened? Okay, we are missing. We gave two dots.
Two dot. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got the data set, right? So that is the use of global macro variable. So I can use it anywhere possible. I can use it in, I can use it in any kind of a statement, any kind of a thing, anywhere. Okay. Clear, ma'am?
Yeah.
So you can have parameters for this kind of variable too.
Sorry, ma'am, come again.
Can we add parameters for this variable too?
Yeah, I mean, parameters in the sense, parameters are nothing but we're just passing in the macro name, while creating it. But here, so here only one parameter is enough because this dataset name, we are creating a local, we are creating a local version of it. But this macro var name is a global one. We called it in a global way, with the help of using personal let statement. Because a global macro variable can be used in any statement, okay, irrespective of the parameters. Got
So
it,
this
ma'am?
will be
Sorry?
in this case, we are just hard coding it, right? We are giving one name, one data set name. So,
Yeah, I mean,
like,
yeah, thing is, hard code in the sense, my point is, for example, if they're around, 2000 lines, okay, 2000 lines, and what you're doing is, so something with or the other, we have a macro name, okay, I mean, a bigger macro name, which you can't remember, and you want to replace that with, and it have a, sorry, macro variable name, and it has a short form so for example, there's a big line of, for example, there's a large location somewhere mentioned at the top of the code, okay, and you want to call that large location into this piece of code, which is almost, 2000 lines away, okay, so directly instead of mentioning the entire location, okay, no, you can directly mention the macro variable name here. That's it.
so how, like, are these macros good for, like, even after we close the session? Like, if
So
we come back,
come again, ma'am? Are these?
we have to auto execute this, all these macros every time we open a new session.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We have to auto execute this message.
Okay. They're good only for one session.
Yeah, they're only for one function. If you want to store it, uh, you can directly mention this in the auto execute file. It'll execute automatically. At the start of the start of this class, I have showed you this, not this class, a SAS class. I have showed you this, auto execute file, right, ma'am? If you remember, anyone remember, ma'am, auto execute file?
Yeah. We
Yeah. So
once showed it for the libraries.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
So the same auto execute file, if you just mention percentage let equal to, uh, just a moment, ma'am. Yeah, yeah, in the same auto execute file, if you mention here, so file is in here. Uh,
So how do you keep track of these macro names? Because if you create so many macros and variables,
how do we?
keep track of the names because how do you remember?
I mean, so once
You
you,
create a file for it or
yeah, so once you run this particular program, you save this code, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and you open this code, right, again. So and it will be there in the code itself, right, ma'am? So there's no need to, remember this particular macro variable. Until in terms of, global, global macro variables, you want to call it, you want to call the macro variables again and again. It's best in the auto execute file. Okay, and the percentage let equal to var name equal to some SAS help dot class. Okay.
So, Rajiv, we can add only global macro, right? Only in the auto execute file, right?
Yeah, global is this, right, ma'am? You can't mention. So you can do in this way. You can do in this way. Just mention this entire data set, this entire data in this particular auto execute file. Okay, so this get runs automatically, and and to remember this name, macro mac one. So mac one is the for example, if I just log out and log in. Yeah, I logged in. And now, so what is the macro auto execute file? There it is in a. So what we have mentioned in the auto execute file, auto execute file is data.ds dataset name. I mentioned macro var name. Okay, I mentioned here this one as a broad class. Okay, just do one thing. Just call the particular macro mac1 ds, and you are not running all these steps again. Okay, because once you close the session, this all data will be erased. Okay, and in the auto execute file you have mentioned mac1. Now run this piece of code. This comes automatically. In the log, if you see 19 observations from sassup.class. In this way, you can just call the macro variable macro name directly. Right, ma'am? Sorry, macro name directly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any question, ma'am? Because local macro variable name is only being created in the specified specified code. Okay. So only in that code it works. Not apart from that code, if you use that particular macro variable name in any other code, it doesn't work. Only the global macro variable names which we create in the open code, because it's an open code. Open code in the sense, it should work anywhere possible. That's the reason. So it's a global. So that's the reason macro var name works only here. I mean, only works in any other macro statements.
So one more question, Raju. So
Yes,
in
ma'am.
execute file, like in the real time, can we add like linear code in that or no?
So let me come again.
So in the real time, can we add the linear code in the auto execute file
No,
or
no,
no?
not linear code, ma'am. No, it's not advisable. Okay, only some short codes, where you want to quickly check what's in the file. Okay, short snippets and all. I mean, you guys have linear code, it's up to you, but still, uh, always it's advised, because if you um place linear codes in an auto execute file, while loading it'll take some time. While opening the SAS session, it gonna take some time, because the entire auto execute file should run, and then the SAS file, and then the SAS file in SAS session will open. Okay, clear, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for example, this data set. Okay, let's see. Data set. Set data. Yeah. For example, you don't want to disrupt this particular data set data macro variable name, because you have other You have other you have other macro names with different parameters. With different the same macro name, with different parameters. If you just change this piece of code to this macro var name, and because after that you can't run these two steps, right, ma'am? Correct? Getting my question, ma'am? Hello?
Yeah, just finish what you
Come,
said.
come again, Raju.
Yeah, so I'll just show you in this way. Let me just show you in this way. Okay, sorry. Okay, that somewhere.
So this is macro underscore var underscore nm. So it is for the global macro variable which
Used,
you
yes, yeah.
yeah. So do you need to call that macro because you just terminated the session?
Oh, that's right. I already have it, right? I already used it in the auto execute file, right? If you see, if you want to check if it works or not, put uh, what is the name of it? Should work. Yeah, it still should work. So we have it. We got it right.
So there are two macro variables,
Sorry,
maybe,
ma'am.
maybe. Um,
Something. I'm missing something.
we're using set underscore data as a macro variable to set it, right? And
Right,
then we're
ma'am.
not mentioning that in the when we're invoking.
Oh,
Hmm.
no. So no, ma'am. We are mentioning set underscore data, right? So we are mentioning here the same, right? So here we are mentioning the okay. The macro. So it's sorry, ma'am. My bad. So it's Mac one. Okay. So I'm using Mac. Yeah. Now it should work. Okay. So here, what I'm using is, you see here, for example, you have this code. Okay. You have this entire code. Okay. You have Mac ones, and you have almost 10 datasets, starting from cards, class, heart, and other datasets. Okay. And if I use this macro var name here directly, okay, so this will run. Okay. And if I remove this one, and this should be removed. Okay. So only the no, only the dataset DS will be replaced. Will these two work, ma'am, for Mac one?
No.
No, right? Yeah, because we have different parameters here. No, we have two parameters here. We have only one parameter here, right? So in order not to just in order not to disturb them, not to disturb the actual code, What I'm doing is I'm directly giving instead of class, I'm giving the macro variable name, the global macro variable name. So this will eventually get as this being as this being a a global macro global macro variable name. So wherever I use it, it should it should eventually get resolved, right? Right, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's the reason. In order not to disrupt this code, I have used this particular macro variable name in the place of in the place of class, and I directly ran this particular piece of code. I got the data. You got this data. Clear, ma'am? How to use this global macro variable? So global macro variable, at whichever point you feel using it, you can use it. So that's the use of global macro variable. Clear, ma'am? Yeah. So yeah, we just hard stop here, ma'am. I'm just not feeling well today. Cold and little headache. Uh, so let's continue this session the next week, ma'am. Almost I'll be there'll be one more session for macros. I'll complete all these macros then. Yeah. So just please do practice, ma'am. Use different create different macro variables, create different um in the global mac. So for now, I have just we have almost we have almost quite a few uh, defined ways to define the ways to create macro variables. The first one is let statement, which I've told you. Just use let statement and create global macro variables and use them in the while calling the macro names. Okay, just do practice it now. So once you practice it, then then you get to know the questions enough. Clear, ma'am, until now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any questions, ma'am?
Hmm.
Yeah. Priyanka, ma'am, how about you? Any questions? Sorry, ma'am.
No, Rajiv.
Okay.
Did you upload, Rajiv, this
Yes,
session,
ma'am.
the
Yeah.
macro?
Yes, ma'am. I uploaded both session and the handout. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean
I,
the yesterday session and the handout.
yesterday, because did
Sorry,
you do yesterday or just today? Because yesterday I did not see that. Hmm.
I mean I guess in the night. I guess I mean in the I guess tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Rajiv,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just have the other question not related to this topic.
Yeah, ma'am.
When we create the format, right?
Uh-huh.
So it will like where we can see the like physical copy of that,
Physical copy in sense, ma'am.
like how we can see the data set icon and all. So if I'm creating any particular format, right?
Mm-hmm.
So will it show in the class folder or somewhere else?
It'll be in the catalog. I mean, for example, if you're saving this format permanently, it will be in the form of catalogs. It will be formed in the library which you have saved. For example, if you're saving in the particular library, you're saving it in the library some your mentioned library. For example, if I save it in this as save something in the
Okay, so it will not show in the particular folder like the class folder, right?
what is class folder, ma'am? I didn't get you.
So whenever we create any file or something like a text file and XLS file, so we
Uh-huh.
can see that we can see that in a file that class folder, right?
Yeah, that's what, ma'am. I didn't get you. I didn't actually. I didn't get you. What is this class folder?
Sorry,
So,
no, actually I created that
okay,
one.
okay, 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 okay.
So the file
No,
in the file section we can see, right, the catalogs and all, right?
no, no, the catalogs and all, no, we can only see in the libraries, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
When we
So,
created any format, so actually I want to ask like where we can see that physical file of that format.
yeah, in whichever no library, you are saving the this particular format, it will be in the form of a catalog in the particular library itself. For example, you are saving something in a particular
It
library.
will not giving any particular library name, so it will
It will
eventually
be in
go
the in
in
the
the
work,
work, right?
exactly, work statement. Yeah, work. Yes, ma'am.
But when I'm seeing in the work library, I did not see. I, that is not my question.
No, you can't open the catalog, ma'am.
No, I that I understood,
Uh-huh.
but how about the physical copy of that? That's what
Yeah,
I.
physical copy, whenever you save it in the particular library, it will be saved. Or else normally it will be in the work folder. Yeah, work folder, I guess. Yeah. Just check on it, ma'am.
Oh,
Yeah. It should be there in the work folder.
yeah, Raju, I will. I'll try one more time because I tried and I just did not find anything.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to save it, you can save it in the libraries. In libraries, it gets created as a in the form of catalog.
Yeah, fine, Raju.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. There's nothing else, then we'll just close the session.
Very good,
Sure, Raju.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Sorry, ma'am. You're saying something?
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Raju.
Yeah.